Cam Whitmore has finally spoken as he gave his final thoughts in a new interview about his time in Houston, as well as his expectation to ball against them next season. And so, for the full story of what he said in that interview, we are going to break it down right here in this episode of Rockets Digest. Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Donovan Ricondo, and we appreciate you joining us. And I just want to take us time to have a special shout out to the 5,046 of you who have subscribed to this channel. I just want to say thank you all very much. We have hit our 5,000 subscriber goal. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts here at Rockets Digest as we give you videos like this about your favorite H-Town team. Now, today we are talking about ex-Rocket Cam Whitmore. As in a recent interview, he talked about his Houston tenure and his Wizards arrival and his expectations this season for himself. So I want to consider this video as kind of our as of right now, like our last video really about Cam Whitmore and about his time in Houston as we finally say goodbye to him. As many of you know, he was traded away from the Rockets to the Washington Wizards about 3 weeks ago in exchange for 2 second-round picks. And now, whether or not there was a lot of criticism about this trade, the first part being, hey, I want to have Cam Whitmore still on the team. People are very huge fans of Cam Whitmore. We think we can develop him into a very great player. There's a lot of people like that, but ultimately, we made the trade. He is no longer going to be on the team. His representatives are trying to find a new place for him, and so that place was Washington, which is his new home, right? Or his new home, but also his old home, right? He grew up in that DMV area, DC, Maryland, Virginia, and so for him to play for his somewhat hometown team is a good thing for Cam Whitmore, and he's going to get a lot more minutes over there, so all good for him. But ultimately, right, there was people that were critics of the trade, right, for sending away Cam Whitmore, but also for the exchange of only 2 second-round picks. A lot of debate to be had there, but nevertheless, Cam Whitmore is gone from Houston, and so Brandon Scoop B. Robinson had an interview with him and had asked him, right, like, during your time in Houston, he said, what was one of your biggest takeaways, especially because you were playing for Ime Udoka, who had such a huge emphasis on defense. So what was your big takeaway? And Cam Whitmore had this to say about that. He said, quote, when I first arrived in the NBA, I really didn't focus on that side of the floor. But as time went on, defense could make a big impact, and you don't even have to score the ball. You can rebound and hustle back on defense and get deflections, just little stuff that helps the team win, end quote. And that in a nutshell is in fact the thing that Cam Whitmore learned the most, right? That was one of the biggest knocks about his game. He was a great offensive player. There wasn't a lot he couldn't do offensively, right? Of course, you can refine things here and there, but offensively, he was an absolute stud. It was mainly the defense that Ime Udoka had a problem with, and just finding consistency in that, which led to some kind of frustrations between the two. Cam Whitmore, after one game, was kind of questioning how come he wasn't playing minutes, and Ime Udoka kind of getting taken aback by that, saying, hey, we've been honest with him. We've had discussions. We've said, like, hey, we need you to do this better, and then you will play more minutes. Ultimately, that did not end up happening. There was really not a spot that Ime Udoka put him in position to play more minutes, except in games where, garbage time or games that didn't really necessarily matter due to playoffs or whatever. So ultimately, that led to Cam Whitmore being traded. But still, having that kind of knowledge of how much defense can make an impact on the amount of time you play in an NBA game, right? In Houston, that was certainly the case. The defense wasn't quite there. Ime Udoka is not going to play you if you don't play defense. And so, again, it's a shame that he's gone. I wish he was still on the team, but he's in Washington now. But there was more to this interview than just this one quote. He was asked about Jalen Green, right? He was asked about Kevin Durant. And so I'm going to take you to one of his quotes about his transition from a role player in Houston to a potential starter in Washington. And Brandon Robinson asked him that if that was a difficult transition for him to make. And Cam Whitmore had this to say, saying, no, not really. In my eyes, I kind of wanted that, and I think I'm ready and built for it. But at the end of the day, whatever the coach wants, same thing I did when I was on the Rockets. Whatever coach wants me to do, I got to put some effort into it. But yeah, it's still what it is. And this is very on par about Cam Whitmore saying how much he wanted to play more, right? That was his big thing. He just wanted to go out there and play. He's a very talented player. He just wants to go out there and get some minutes and put points on the board. And so this is exactly what he wanted. And so I expect no different answer than the answer that he gave here, basically saying, like, I love the transition, right? Like I wanted this transition for the past 2 years. I just want to go out there and play. And the fact now that he gets to play that for a team he grew up watching is kind of it's great in a way. It's good for him to play with the Wizards, a team that's struggled for the past since I guess since they traded John Wall and Bradley Beal, right? Like since then the Wizards have not really been a relevant team. So he has the opportunity to go out there and really change that franchise around. If that's really what he wants, then you know, perfect. You are in the position to do that for your new team. Now he was also asked about Jalen Green. These two guys are probably going to be connected for the rest of their career as the guys that left the team. Not necessarily as free agents, but who were traded away from the team before this Rockets team, possibly wins a championship, right? Before they possibly make a Western Conference Finals, before they get really, really, really good. But these two guys, Jalen Green and Cam Whitmore, had left the team prior to these upcoming years. And so he was asked about Jalen Green, and he had this to say, all good things, saying, I'm not going to lie, Jalen Green is a good player, an athletic player, and I think he should have been an all-star this past year. But it is what it is. But I think his breakout year will be this year. And he has a lot of people doubting him, and I'm rooting for him. That's my brother. And I do like this statement from Cam Whitmore because, as many of you have pointed out, right, Jalen Green, again, did not have a great playoff series. He was our leading scorer the past year. And I do agree with Cam Whitmore. Like, he was our leading scorer last year, and he probably deserved at least, an all-star appearance. I mean, he was a very good player during the regular season. He showed that he was really, really good at what he was capable of. Obviously, that did not pan out in terms of his playoff performance. But again, some of you even pointed out, like, hey, Cam Whitmore should be playing over Jalen Green, which I thought was a crazy take and didn't quite necessarily agree with. But just still, the potential and how high people are on Cam Whitmore and how high people were on Jalen Green. Ultimately, both of those did not pan out. So I see these two intertwined in that as players who didn't quite work out wearing the Rockets uniform. So it's good to see some friendliness to them as they, calls him his brother, calls him that he's rooting for him. And so it's very good to see that kind of mindset about his former teammate. And Brandon Robinson also asked him this question, saying, what are your thoughts on Kevin Durant now playing for Houston? Cam Whitmore said, I mean, Kevin Durant's a fit, but at the end of the day, that calendar is marked when the day comes, and so it's going to be a good game. And that has been really hyped up for the very first Washington Wizards Houston Rockets game of next season. I am interested to see how Cam Whitmore plays against the Houston Rockets whenever he comes back to Toyota Center, or whether the Rockets are in DC against the Wizards. Regardless, I think that's going to be a very, very interesting game to watch, as Cam Whitmore has something to prove, right? He did not get the minutes that he wanted. He wants to go out there and show Udoka to his face. He's right there on the sideline like, hey, I'm going to do as much as I can to make this a W for my squad. And so it's going to be very interesting to see. And on top of that, right, he had the opportunity to play with Kevin Durant this season, right? He could have still been on the team and possibly learned some new things, some new tricks from KD, which would have ultimately benefited Cam Whitmore, or as any player would, playing with Kevin Durant, to see the kind of work ethic that goes into being one of the greats. And so he had that opportunity, ultimately decided to, that he wanted to seek better pastures and find a team that would benefit himself, as well as, the Houston Rockets getting something in terms of a trade, which was those 2 second-round picks. And so he had that opportunity, but now he's going, instead of being teammates, he's going to be, rivals, right? You play the Houston Rockets, it doesn't matter who's on that team. You're going to step up, show out, and prove that you are who you said you were these past 2 years. So it's going to be a very cool game. I'm going to mark that on my calendar for whatever time that day is. But ultimately, yes, that is the Cam Whitmore interview. And I just want to end off on a quote that Cam Whitmore said about, his expectations for next season with the Washington Wizards, saying, "I'm not going to lie, I'm really trying to win some games. I want to turn this whole organization around into a positive organization where fans will want to come to the games and fans will want to watch the Wizards play basketball. But first, we got to win. Really, my goal is to win 35, least 40 games at the max. But the Eastern Conference is up for grabs, and anybody can kind of get it. But a play-in wouldn't be too bad either." And the reason why I want to end on this quote, because I think this quote ultimately sums up what could have been in Houston, right? Cam Whitmore is a winner. He has a winner mentality. He wants to do everything possible to make the organization that he plays for as best as it possibly can be. In his mind, he felt he should have played more. He felt he should have had a bigger role, larger role, and played some valuable minutes to help this team win. He wanted to do that for Houston. He was here for a while. Ultimately, it did not work out. And so I'm sitting here just thinking about, like, what if Cam Whitmore was on this team? What if he still would have the opportunity to develop into the player that we all kind of know he's going to be? He's going to be a really good player. I would not be surprised if next year he is on that Washington Wizards squad and he is one of their leading scorers and that he is a key part in what that team does on the court. And so I sit here and I can't help but wonder. But of course, everything happens for a reason. I still think the Rockets are a very, very good team. I still think they're in very good hands with the players we have now, and Şengün, Alperen Thompson, and so Kevin Durant as well. But still, what could have been? And ultimately, Cam Whitmore is a Washington Wizard. Kevin Durant is a Houston Rocket, and Jalen Green is a Phoenix Sun. Lots can change in the NBA in just one offseason, and that this is a result of that. And so let me know in the comments what you think about Cam Whitmore's interview here and whether or not you are pumped up for that very first matchup when he goes up against KD against the Houston Rockets next season. With that, that pretty much wraps up this video of Rockets Digest. Thank you so much for helping us reach our goal. We appreciate you, and thank you for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one. Adios.